What is a real American? A real American is not defined by the color of their skin, the language they speak, or the place of their birth. A real American is someone who believes in freedom, equality, and justice for all, and lives by those ideals. It is someone who understands that our nation was built not just by one group, but by many, people of every race, religion, and background, who came here seeking a better life, and who contributed their labor, their culture, and their dreams to the foundation of this country. We must remember the dark chapters too. The enslaved Africans whose stolen labor built much of our early wealth. The Chinese immigrants who laid the tracks for the transcontinental railroad, often in dangerous conditions for little pay. The immigrant laborers who worked the farms and factories that fed and supplied our growing nation. The Japanese Americans who were forced into internment camps during World War II, their rights stripped away, and the land taken from Mexico and from indigenous peoples long before that. A real American confronts these truths, not to divide us, but to learn from them, to ensure we do not repeat the mistakes of the past. A real American believes that our strength comes from our diversity, from our ability to come together, even when we disagree, to solve problems and build a better future. They understand that patriotism is not blind loyalty, but a commitment to hold our country to its highest ideals. A real American respects the rights of others, stands up for the vulnerable, and knows that freedom is not just for themselves, but for everyone. We are all part of this story, and it is up to us to write the next chapter, one of unity, fairness, and hope. That is what it means to be a real American. Long before there was a United States, this land was home to native peoples. Nations with rich cultures, languages, and traditions stretched across the continent. But with expansion came violence and removal. Tribes were driven from their homelands. Broken treaties piled one upon another. Entire communities were forced onto reservations, stripped of land, culture, and often life itself. Yet Native Americans endured. They fought to keep their identities alive, their sovereignty recognized, their voices heard. And today, they remain the first Americans, reminding us of resilience, survival, and the cost of forgetting. America was built on contradictions. We spoke of freedom, but kept millions in chains. For over 200 years, enslaved Africans and their descendants lived and died as property. They cleared the land, harvested the crops, and built the wealth of a young nation. Yet they were denied the very rights this country claimed to stand for. Families torn apart, lives measured in labor, not in dignity. The stain of slavery is not just in our past. It echoes forward in inequality, in injustice, in the struggle that continues today. To understand what it means to be a real American, we cannot look away from this truth, because their story is our story. In the mid-1800s, America hungered for land. Through war and conquest, nearly half of Mexico was taken, from Texas to California, Arizona, and beyond. The people who already lived there woke up to find their world transformed. In an instant, their homes were now in a different country. Promises of rights and citizenship were made, but too often broken. Mexican Americans faced discrimination, violence, and laws that treated them as outsiders in their own land. Their history is not a footnote. It is part of America's foundation. This land and the people on it remind us that being a real American has never been just about borders. It has always been about belonging, struggle, and the fight for dignity. After slavery ended, America still relied on exploited labor. Tens of thousands of Chinese immigrants were brought here in the mid-1800s. They laid the tracks that connected this country from coast to coast. They blasted through mountains, spanned rivers, and risked their lives for progress. Yet when the work was done, they were cast aside, denied citizenship, denied equality, even banned from coming here at all. And it wasn't just the Chinese. Generations of immigrants, Irish, Italian, Mexican, and more, carried the hardest burdens. They dug the mines, they built the roads, they worked the fields. America has always been built by those willing to do the hardest work for the least reward. But their sweat and sacrifice are woven into the fabric of this nation. During World War II, fear turned to injustice. Over 100,000 Japanese Americans, most of them citizens, were forced from their homes. They lost their businesses, their farms, their freedom. Families lived behind barbed wire, guarded by soldiers, not because of what they had done, but because of who they were. In a nation built on liberty, we stripped liberty away. And still, many of those same men and women proved their loyalty. Japanese American soldiers fought with honor overseas, even as their families remained imprisoned at home. Their story is a reminder: fear can make us betray our values, and when we forget our promises, real Americans suffer. What is a real American? It is not perfection. It cannot be, because all humans are flawed, and our nation is made of humans. America's story is filled with struggle and contradiction. Slavery, exploited labor, internment, dispossession of land. We carry these scars. But being a real American also means facing those truths and trying to do better. Generation after generation, people have risen to demand freedom, equality, and justice, and progress has been made. We ended slavery. We expanded rights. We opened doors once closed. We are not finished, but we are moving forward. A real American is not defined by blood or by birthplace or by perfection. A real American is defined by the willingness to strive, to face our flaws, to fight for our ideals, and to believe that together we can keep building a more just and hopeful nation. Thanks for watching Hot LZ. If you value open discussion and real American voices, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. And join the conversation at hotlz.com.